Welcome, everybody. A warm, warm welcome. Sorry. My name is Antoinette, and I'm just here to welcome you back into the Gaia Journey today. We are in a collective inhale moment. So, if you have not been part of the Gaia Journey yet, a warm welcome to you. If you have been with us for the last month, also a warm welcome. It is good to have you back. We've been meeting together in this time. Sorry. We've been meeting together in this time to be able to really just sense into what is going on an individual level and on a collective level as we continue to move through this, for what many of us is a crisis moment in our world. And for some of us, that has meant quite painful experiences. For some of us, it has meant quieting down and becoming more still. For some of us, it's meant becoming more active and being called into action in a way that is needed in a time of crisis. So wherever you are in this moment and in your own journey, you are welcome here. And today I'll share a little bit more about where we are in the journey in just a moment. But what we're really doing is actually sitting in that discomfort together. And I believe it's an Albert Einstein quote that we can't solve problems using the same thinking that we used to create them in the first place. And that's very true for how we show up in our way of being. That if we don't shift our way of being, then what shows up in the world won't shift as well. So we are being called to actually really move into the body and really tap into new ways of being in the world. So we can look at where we are in our journey and just pull up the first slide. So in this experience, we are dropping into an inhale together. And as we move into that inhale, we're really coming together and aligning in a collective experience. So that beautiful sort of orb we talked about in another world or a new world being possible within ourselves and our planet. And this inhale moment is really dropping into that experience together. In the exhale weeks, we move out of that and into our own communities and our own experience, and we kind of bring that out. But in this inhale time where we are together right now is the time that we can actually come together, share a learning, and do some collective sense making, which we will be doing together today. We can look at the next slide. So as you can see, the kind of thread of what we've been doing is moving through. We met on March 27th, April 10th. Now we're here on April 24th. We're still in that beginning phase. And we started by staying with what was coming up, what was really rising for all of us. And we're still doing that with our deep listening and really just dropping into a deeper level of listening and understanding. And now we're moving into a deep resonance practice, where, as I said, we're moving into the body. And I shared earlier in the first connection that we had today, that it's sort of like the resonance after hearing a bell. There's Arthur Zients has shared with us a bell sound meditation. And when you ring the bell, at first you sort of see and sense what's happening. And then in this deep resonance moment, it's kind of after the bell rings, you can still kind of hear it and let the sound sort of continue in the body. So that's what we're doing here today, is really tapping into a deeper resonance of what we saw and sensed in the last month together. So we'll do that in the body with Arawana and others. And I will pass it over to Otto, who will share more about where we are now.
Thank you, Antoinette, and a warm welcome also from here, from the Boston area, to all of you. It's great to reconnect. And before we dive into the deeper aspects of the session that Antoinette already indicated, I want to draw our attention to three concepts and distinctions that may be useful for us as we move deeper into our process, not only this session, but also the coming weeks that are ahead of us. And the three concepts are social field, social arts, and awareness-based research or awareness-based action research. Social fields. Social fields basically look at social systems from within. While social systems usually look at human behavior from outside, that means from a third-person perspective, so everything you can capture with a camera, the social field perspective is looking at human behavior both from an outside and an inside view, from a third-person perspective, but also from a first and second-person perspective. So here's a little model that depicts one version of a social field perspective. So what you see here is, of course, the iceberg model. And it basically says that, if you read it from the top down, that in order to accomplish practical results, right, or different practical results that we all care about, we have to change the quality of relating, by which we mean the patterns of thinking, conversing, and organizing. And in order to do that, we have to become aware of and cultivate these deeper source conditions, by which we mean the quality of the soil or the container, and our inner conditions that we operate from as individuals. So, in other words, a social field perspective says that the source conditions, the deeper source conditions that we operate from, give rise to the qualities of relating, the patterns of thinking, conversing, and organizing, which in turn produce the practical results. So in other words, when we think about change, it's not enough just focus on the first one or two levels here. But what it really takes is to also bring awareness into and cultivate these deeper source, these deeper root conditions. Now, the question, of course, is how? How do we do that? And what we learned over the past 2 decades and, really experimenting with that field is what it takes are new tools. And some of the most powerful and most important tools we have found are all related to social art practices. So that's kind of the first thing we found. And the second one is that we need to integrate these tools, these social art and other tools, in an extended concept of science that we call awareness-based research or awareness-based action research, that blends first, second, and third person research methods, and that is focusing on bending the beam of scientific observation that, as you can see here, usually is focusing on something outside, right? Third person perspective. Bending the beam of scientific observation back on the observing self, back onto our own patterns of behavior that we collectively enact and which then produce the results that we deal with in the world. What does that mean, bending the beam of scientific observation? It means that we help communities and systems to see and also to sense themselves, to look into the mirror and to see our own collective shadows. So to look into the collective mirror and to recognize ourselves. Last time, when Dana spoke about structural violence and structural love, you may remember that moment. That was a powerful example of doing just that, looking into the collective mirror. So that's basically what state-of-the-art systems thinking does today. It's blending systems thinking with systems sensing by focusing on making communities and systems sense and see themselves, which means, so as a community, we look at that whole, all three levels. We bend the beam of observation and we realize how these results that we collectively enact emerge and arise from these deeper layers of individual and collective agency. And that is, of course, what we try to do, to move towards also with the Gaia journey. And that's why we are so happy and thankful that we are joined today by Arawana, who has been the co-founder of the Presencing Institute and the originator of a new social art form that we call social presencing theater, and by Manish, who is joining us from India, and who has been kind of one of her closest collaborator in creating that field. And also we'll be joined by Eva from Concordia University, who heads the Presencing Institute research group, and also the Gaia research team that, you know, as we progress in this journey, kind of will continue to feed back observations and patterns kind of that emerge from the variety of research activities that we are beginning to engage in together. With that, Eva, over to you.
Okay. I'm unmuted. All right. Thank you, Otto. So hello, everyone. As Otto said, I'm Eva, and I'm calling in from Montreal, Canada. And I've been coordinating the Gaia research, where we've been gathering mainly qualitative data through the survey and through focus groups. That's allowed us to start to sort of see and understand what's happening here in Gaia and through Gaia as it's happening and as it's unfolding. And it allows us to sort of surface and make more visible some of the less visible or the invisible dimensions of change. And then what we do with that is we bring it back here to this space to share, partly to see how it resonates with you and if it reflects your experience. But also, and maybe even more importantly, we do that so that for all of us who are having our own sort of personal journey through Gaia, we're able to do that while also simultaneously being able to see the whole that we're a part of. And so I want to thank everybody who has participated in the research so far. We've actually had far more people willing to take part in focus groups than we've had groups. And so I did want to mention that there's another opportunity to participate in the research around the social presencing theater process we'll be using shortly. And you'll get more information about that in the follow-up email. But for now, we'd like to share a little bit about what's present here in our social field, and do that by bringing in some of the voices from the focus group. So if we could play that clip, that would be great.
I really want to be an active citizen in this new world that's starting to emerge, because this time next year it's going to be different, and I don't want to be absent to it. I want to be a part of that awakening.
When I hear words in sessions, it connects with me, something like Luis was referring to. When I hear the music, that was the music that I wanted to play. When I see tears in someone's eyes, I also see it in mine. So that kind of connectedness.
I felt that the new future is being co-created. A whole new systems thinking is being co-created.
It's so crazy to see that it's real, that we are one, and to experience it like not as an idea, because I teach my students about we're one with nature and all together, you know, like kind of in theory, but I've never experienced it with other humans so openly and so like in 1 second. It's so crazy.
What we're doing here is precisely finding a way to coordinate the global system, but with more consciousness, attending in different ways. And we have to find a way to to create a structural love instead of structural violence.
I was thinking what is being co-created is maybe it's the courage to change and to act on things.
So I just want to thank everyone for their sharing and everyone who helped make that sharing possible. And I'd like to add one last piece from the focus groups that's come up quite recently, because I think it's a really nice piece about what kind of first step action looks like in a change process. So Hannah in Germany talked about how after one of the Inhale sessions, she went back into her work group for an economic development agency and suggested to the group that instead of exploring the question that they had been exploring, which is how can we get the economy back to normal, that they shift that focus and ask what would it look like to develop an economy that served the well-being of all. And by changing that question, it changed the nature of the conversation. It opened up a few other conversations and helped Hannah herself to connect with her own sort of truth and her own work. And I really love that story because I think it's a wonderful example and a very real example of the small step action that we take that begins to ripple out and have more impact. And so with that, I'll hand back to you, Antoinette.
Thank you so much, Eva. Thank you, Otto. And thank you, everybody, for contributing in all of the ways that you have been. And now we'll just move into breakout rooms to actually explore what Eva just brought up of what are the micro changes, if any, that you may have been feeling that you're actually sensing the new already. So what are the micro changes you've begun observing in yourself? And it could be the questions that you're asking or the way that you're listening or anything in that may have come up for you when Eva just shared that story. So you'll move into your breakout rooms for 10 minutes and you'll be able to share with about 4 or 5 people. And you'll share your name, where you are currently, and what micro changes, if any, have you been observing in the last few weeks? The question will also be posted in your chat. So enjoy the time together. We'll see you back here in 10 minutes. I'll just begin to welcome everybody back. I know that we are all rolling in, but it's great to see some of the faces. I'm just getting to see you all come in on video. Lovely. And just a note that that there are 4 different Zoom rooms and a YouTube stream that are being, the 4 Zoom rooms are threaded together so that we can share across all of our channels and be able to actually talk to one another in real time. So know that that is happening now. And as I say that, I think we are all back. So welcome back, everybody. Feels very, very good to be together in this way and to be in connection. And I'm curious what came up for everybody in your conversations. What micro changes have you been feeling, or what shifts have you begun to notice in yourself? So we can share in 2 different ways. One is by typing into the chat. So there's a little chat button at the bottom. I think most of us have found that. That's where it is in Zoom. On YouTube, you can feel free to comment. And you can share in the chat what micro changes have been coming up for you. And then you can also, if you're in Zoom, click on the participants button at the bottom of the screen. Use the little blue raise hand button that will pop up, and we'll be able to bring your voice and visual into the space across all 4 of our Zoom rooms to share what micro changes have you been seeing in yourself. So we will take one from each room. Starting with Bjorn on our channel 1.
Yeah, I think one bigger change is that I felt incredibly energized to really use this unique moment to make change happen. And basically on the smallest possible scale that I can think of. Talking to a friend that I saw posted some untrue thing on Facebook, checking in with the family more regularly, kicking off some projects with friends that have actually started to grow. And yeah, so pretty much energized by this opportunity and trying to push everyone that I can bring along to look forward and not waste time looking back and hang on to a world that has stopped existing.
Absolutely, Bjorn. Thank you, and thank you for sharing. It's that connection of these small things and how they connect up to the larger whole. So thank you for sharing that. We'll go next to channel 2 with Greg.
Okay, there we go. I am this coronavirus has forced me into more isolation and more quiet time. And in the quiet time, I noticed that I have more time for introspection, for sensing into what wants to be known from inside of myself, because I'm not so engaged in the communications with others that cause me to focus my attention outside of myself more. And so this coming home to myself, I'm calling a mighty pause to breathe into my own internal energies and self-awareness. And sometimes those pieces of self-awareness are subtle. Walking in nature now more than I ever have is also a good support for that process of internalizing and listening to what wants to be known from inside of myself. So I'm grateful for that. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Greg. We'll go next to Carola.
We had this discussion that it's kind of we all have the impression that deep listening is taking place for all three of us. And we all also said that the contact with ourselves had deepened. And the push, kind of before there was like a push to direct action all the time. And this has decreased to a significant level. And then also the fact that kind of the whole society knows now that a shift is possible. And that somehow an amazing awareness. And the question is just, is it possible because it's about survival? Or would it also be possible if we decide to make the shift out of love? And I think that's more or less all what we really, all three of us, we just said it's amazing to see and to hear that from people we haven't met before in one room, to say, oh yes, and then you add up to that. Thank you.
So beautiful to hear how those connections are coming together and just kind of being woven and threaded together. We'll take one last comment. I believe it's channel 4, Rita.
Hi. I just went through the experience of having to deal with quite a difficult conflict. Here I live in a small community in Portugal, where two of the volunteers had a physical fight. And it's been really revealing to allow the time for me to be really clear where I am, where I'm coming from, and what I need to be ready and fully present and open to possibilities, and be able to hold the space for a situation so intense to heal on the spot, so that people can open their heart and see the humanity in each other, see the heart that is bleeding in each other. And it's been a heartbreaking and revealing experience. And I'm really grateful for all the work that we are doing here, because it really supports the possibility of love in the society and healing the society at the base.
Thank you so much, Rita. Thank you for bringing that in, the heartbreaking and revealing moment that we are in, and just inviting us back into that heart space as well. So as we kind of move, in the conversation space, we can sometimes stay in the head and sometimes we move into the heart. And now we will move in with Arawana to the body, and really sensing from that place. So Arawana, over to you.
Beautiful to hear what people are saying, and how it lands on us when we listen well. So we wanted to have a few minutes to settle into our own being with just a few minutes of human being practice, using our mindfulness to just to really attend and listen to our own embodiment. And we start just on this earth, that we feel that we have a place on the earth, that we can feel that our feet are on the floor, and that floor reminds us of the solidity of this earth. We also feel that our seat, where we're sitting, is our place. So if we could just take a moment and feel, this is our spot right now. Everyone on the planet has a place right now where we live. And if we could just take a moment to feel that. Our body on the good earth body. And from that sense of groundedness, we feel the strength of our back. That each of us is sitting upright with a good sense of a strong back. We have all sorts of ancestors and teachers and friends and colleagues that are backing us up. We can feel them behind us. And we just feel the physical body, the back. Natural uprightness, natural wakefulness of the body. And then the top of the head is always in some conversation with the sky. It always attends to openness, vastness, just any possibility that could arise. The unbounded sky. We feel the body joining openness of sky with the solidity of earth. And it joins really at the heart. So take a moment to feel this basically good heart of humanness. Basic kindness, basic courage, basic sanity. So we're sitting here embodied in this particular body shape. I'm going to ask you in preparation for our social presencing theater moments that I'm going to ask if we could just shift to another shape. Just move your body to another sitting shape. Anything, whatever it is perfect. Okay, perfect. Now, how about another one? Third shape. Anything you want, anything, any shape that you feel like making. We call this a sculpture, body sculpture, body shape, and we feel it. Feel the back, face, fingers, belly. It's present, the whole body's present. Perfect. Now, from this one, just shift your attention now, not just to the shape, but if you could move somewhat slowly, moving, moving, moving until your body settles into the next shape and rest. Now, apply your mindfulness and feel the body moving and stopping, resting. So if you have thoughts about it, that's fine. Just let those go. Feel the body, the back, legs, once more moving and resting in a shape. Okay, so that's the preparation for this practice, which we're going to do called social presencing theater. I'll lead you through for a few minutes now, and then we can take it into our breakout groups as well. So social presencing theater is a method. It's a set of practices, which Otto referred to earlier, created by colleagues here at the Presencing Institute and others, and bring the body intelligence into our conversations so that we are not just a talking head. And in this kind of format where we see each other in the little squares, the head and eyes and this kind of just to this part of the body, we often don't feel the heartfulness and the bodiness that is present. We all have bellies and bodies, but we don't see those. Nonetheless, the sense of feeling is very important, and particularly the body as a resonance base, how we see, we have a feeling quality, and that's what we're trying to really highlight here, a natural quality that we all have, but we could attend to it a little bit more. So here's the way this goes. The social presencing theater makes the body visible. The body is visible, and it can share with others because other people also see us. They see our own presence. So here's how it'll go. I'm going to stand up. You can do it standing or you can do it sitting, however you would like. I'm just going to stand so that there's a little bit more shape here. And so I'm going to instruct. You don't need to watch. If you can just do what I say, if that's okay. You're going to find a place, standing up or sitting. Think for a moment about some place in your life and work in which you feel stuck. That's the word we use, stuck. But it could be a question, it could be a challenge, it could be an obstacle, it could be a doubt, but it's something that is making it difficult for you to move forward and to create what you want to create, whether that's a project, whether it's a relationship, no matter what it is, we all have places in our own creative living process where things are not moving forward. And in this method, we are very welcoming of that. We don't say, oh, that's a problem, let's get rid of it, or it's something to be ashamed of. In this work, we are delighted to have us stuck because it has so much richness of information, so much learning. So we embody, in this case, embody the stuck. And I'm going to embody mine, but you just make a shape, whatever it is. Just take a moment and let the body make a shape that expresses a stuck. It's not like a acting out, it's just a feeling that it's pushing away or pushing down or stretching too far. Okay? Once you get in your shape, just say, you can just do it now if you'd like, just say a word or two or a little phrase that your stuck is telling you. What is this stuck expressing? In my stuck, it says, need space. What does yours say? The next part is to stay with that shape. How do the shoulders feel? How does the back feel? And nobody wants to stay in this shape. This is not sustainable. Stuck is not a sustainable situation. The body wants to move. So where does it want to go? Don't think about it. Feel it. Where do the hands want to move? Where does the back want to move? What about the legs? What about the shoulders? Where do they actually want to travel to? Attend to that. If you have thoughts, just let those go. Stay with the body. And once you get into your, what we call sculpture 2, again, let the stuck say a little phrase. What is it? Or a word. Resting at home is what mine says, but yours will say something. So that's the practice that we would like you to bring into your practice, your breakout group. And it's an opportunity really just to bring your body into the conversation. I know for some of us it's an unusual form, but I also see many familiar faces here, people who have brought this practice into their teams, into their coaching, into their organizations, and into their families. So Manish will give us some instructions, and then we'll each have just a very short time to try it out with the instructions that he gives.
Thank you, Arawana. I really enjoyed doing this practice, and this is one of my favorite practice, as this really helps in transforming our struggles or challenges into work of art, to actually generate some creative insights about our life. And it has almost become daily practice for many of us, some of us present in the room. And particularly what is helpful is when we do it with others. And that's what we're going to do in a breakout, because when you are in a breakout or in a group, you are not just taking your journey from sculpture 1 to sculpture 2, but you are also being a witness and support in others' journey. And that's a great gift, to be a witness, to see somebody transforming their stuck situation into something which is more resilience and more presence. So let me show you an instruction slide. Can we have the slide up? Great. What we request you to do in your breakout group, decide who goes first, and then one person makes their sculpture, your current reality sculpture, hold it, sense it, say one sentence, word or phrase, as Arawana said. You say it a little loud so your people in the group can hear. and then let the movement happen. And sculpture 2, say one sentence, hold it, or a word or a phrase, and then you let it go. And others who are in your group, the observers, they would offer a phrase about the shift that they witnessed as you took the journey. And when all three are done, or all 3 or 4, whatever number are in the group, when you are done, you may take a moment to write these sentences or phrases or words, because that's the raw material for what we are going to create next when we transform this journey into an artifact. So enjoy this process. You will have 10 minutes, and you have to press on the join the breakout. There will be a pop-up on the screen. You have to press that. And I really encourage all of you to enjoy this process as a collective. Thank you. Welcome back, everyone. As people are coming, it's really wonderful to see. It seems something has shifted. You have taken some journey from your current reality sculptures to the emerging future sculptures. So we will wait for a moment for everyone to come back. That's great. Looks like more or less everyone is back. Thank you so much for diving in and experimenting with this embodied journey. And I can almost feel that all of you have taken some journey in this little time we had together. And what I invite you now is for a silent, contemplative drawing and journaling practice, which will help us in translating these embodied wisdom that we generated through our bodies into an artifact. And how do we do that is in this instruction. Can we have the instruction, please? Thank you. Yes, that's great. So what I request you to do is to take a sheet of paper and fold it into half, or if you have a notebook, you can draw a line in the center. And then on the left side, you draw a sculpture. You draw your sculpture, a sketch, a drawing that best represents your sculpture one, your shape one. And then on the other side, you draw a sketch which represents your sculpture two. And you don't have to be perfect. It could be a human figure the way I have drawn on this slide, or it could be just a sticky figure. It could be just a shape, any shape that represents, that makes you feel that, yes, this is what my shape looks like. And once you have done that, then take a moment to write these 3 sentences. First sentence is basically saying, what is my sculpture one telling me about my current reality? The second sentence is saying, what is my sculpture two telling me about my emerging future? And then take a moment to reflect what enabled the shift from sculpture one to sculpture two. That would become the third sentence. So take 2 minutes to do this contemplative sketching and reflection process. And we would request Tony to play some music to enrich our contemplation activity, sensing from the field. Thank you, Tony. As you are writing your 3 sentences, I now invite you and request you to write your sentences in the chat, but write them in one single paragraph. That is, don't hit enter after every sentence. Otherwise, they will come as broken. So write your sentences in one single paragraph. The first sentence is about your current reality, what the sculpture is saying, telling you. The second is about your future sculpture, sculpture 2, what is it telling you? And the third one is basically answering what is enabling this shift. So it would be wonderful if you can just write these 3 sentences as one single paragraph and paste it. Awesome. Beautiful. You can see it coming. And as others are writing, take a moment to scroll up and down and get a sense of what is the journey that others are going through, because these sentences are your poetry. These sentences is the poetry hidden in your body, is the song that is indicating something about our inner journey. And when you read others, you get a sense of what is the collective inner journey that is unfolding in Gaia.
Feeling my past is holding me back. Release, deep surrender.
You cannot save the world alone. Go first inside before you take action outside. Let go.
I feel small and closed up. I am expansive and open, opening up of myself, opening my heart and trusting every birth into the unrestricted with trust.
Constricted and tight, centered and expressing, finding and leaning into inner strength.
Trapped and stacked. Hey, you have to move forward. Just take a step ahead and bang it.
I love you. Birth again. Feeling the pain and the love inside my heart.
Thank you. This is so amazing. And at this moment, every single poetry becomes everybody's poetry. So everything that is read is actually resonating from the collective body. And I just want to say as last thing that these lines are powerful. They are your inner journey. And I did this activity some, 7, 8 years back. And I still keep this as an artifact, as a bookmark. So take your 3 lines and transform them into a table piece or a bookmark or whatever you feel like. Thank you so much for creating this beautiful resonance. Antoinette.
Thank you so much, Manish, and thank you, Arawana, for pushing us into this this kind of opened new way of being just by moving back into the body and into poetry and into really the experience of being in ourselves in a different way. And I think that new way of being in ourselves is what opens us up to be in the world in a different way. So thank you so much for that poetry and expression. It's something that really just allows us to continue moving forward in a new way. And we will give you more information about how to continue that as part of the Gaia journey as a whole. And with that, over to you, Otto.
Thank you, Manish, Arawana, and really everyone to turning us into poets, so social imagination poets, inquiring our deeper reality, kind of making visible. So we started with this whole notion of the social field, and that there is a deeper, a deeper dimension in each social relationship. Like each field has like parts that are visible, and then other parts deeper down in the soil that are invisible to the eye. And what we try to do here is really develop practices that allow us to unearth, to make more visible, and to bring more to our attention and to our cultivation these deeper soil conditions that we operate from when we enact individually and collectively the social patterns that we observe. So thank you for introducing us to this practice that allows us to do that a little bit. You will have, Antoinette will talk about that a little later, the possibility to deepen that in the next iteration of the social solidarity circle. And we are now kind of coming to a close by moving, applying kind of the process of social resonance to an image. And I just want to draw your attention as we, come towards the close, draw your attention to probably an experience you already had when listening to the readout that we just heard, that even though these little poems that we heard were not our own and were articulated very, very differently, and I could not have articulated just about anyone that we heard, and yet there was an instant recognition. So there was an intimate recognition of the inner place from which this articulation came. So that kind of movement from individual to a more collective sense of resonance and recognition is something that is remarkable, I think, and which is really at the foundation of a lot of social healing processes. So, for example, just to give an example for that, so for me, if I review the last few moments, kind of there was one sentence that really resonated that was read out, kind of, now the whole society knows that a shift is possible. So that's a felt sense I also really strongly experience. And another one that I saw in the chat kind of from Birgit, through this global connection, I get much courage to take deep listening, awareness, and awakening into my own communities. Thank you. So it's a little bit noticing what's actually happening with our own experience, kind of through connecting with each other, or allowing the deeper connections that we already have with each other to become more apparent, to enter more our awareness. And with that, so we want to close this process with another version of a social resonance process that, like last time, will take us to Berlin, where Olaf has been using generative scribing to capture some of the process that we just went through. So Olaf, over to you.
Hi. Just as I was listening to you and you were saying a shift is possible, I suddenly looked at the image and I had a feeling it's just by being together like these people, it's shifting all the time. It's happening whether we do it or not. It's just more like, that was a feeling I got. It's just if we recognize it or how we open up for the shift, but the shift is happening as long as there's living. So that was just a thought. I don't know if that makes sense. That's all.
Thank you, Olaf. So I now invite you to move on full screen view, this image of by Olaf, and then kind of to click down the other windows we have, kind of the other Zoom stuff, so that we all really have the benefit of just having the entire screen with Olaf's image. And I'm going to invite you with the two-step process that you're already familiar with to go through this process of social resonance. And when we say social resonance, we really want to include dissonance as well. So all the different voices that you feel within yourself that are activated in your own experience when you allow this image to sink in, so that we look at both sides of the polarity, those kind of that are more towards kind of the light, and those, you know, the light and darkness and the interplay that we see in the image here, that we really pay attention to the whole spectrum and the interplay. So with that, let's move into the first step, which is just individual seeing, allowing this image to sink into your mind, into your heart, and notice the resonance that it evokes in your own experience. And now, if you want, share your experience in the chat by using the sentence structure I see, I sense, or I feel.
I see courage and care as the foundation of the blood of action.
I see that the inner landscape is connected to the outer landscape, Gaia and society.
I sense a global collective reset, looking for complete restructuring of our societies.
I see white swirls of flow in the gray, little color. I sense movement. I feel the image is trapped in the twilight, a bit gloomy.
Thank you all for sharing this beautiful connection to this image and to what's coming up for each of us, and what we're seeing and sensing and feeling, and what is actually emerging in our collective. As we move forward from this inhale moment, we, as it kind of showed in Olaf's image, we step into this new being together, and we continue this month of deep resonance and connecting into, as Otto shared at the beginning, the deep places, the source from where we are operating, and the micro shifts that we can continue to nurture in ourselves and in our collective, in the world around us. We'll do this through our social solidarity circle. We have shared with you, or we will have shared tomorrow, we will share with you a 2.0 version of the social solidarity circle, in which we will drop in and use this embodied practice, this social presencing theater, the movement from sculpture 1 to sculpture 2, with our social solidarity circle, to really move through that individual transition that we might be feeling, and to be able to see the kind of pattern that's showing up in our collective, to see where and what and how are we moving through this time together. So we'll do that through the social solidarity circles. We'll also start to gather in our hubs. So if you have not yet joined or created a hub, now's the time to start thinking about that and looking into what interest area, what topic are you really called to move into some kind of action in. And it doesn't need to be right away. We're not necessarily in the jumping into that phase. But we are in a moment of really considering what is ours to do now? What are we feeling called to do? And what interest area or what topic am I going to be applying my energy in as we go forward? So Social Solidarity Circle 2.0, hubs, and as Eva mentioned earlier, there will be an opportunity for those of you who want to share in our kind of collective harvesting of understanding, seeing, sensing what's going on in our global community. We will have an opportunity for each of us, or whoever would like to, share the process of sculpture 1, sculpture 2, and what shifted, what caused the shift, so that we can actually start to see that the next time we come together. So we'll ask you to upload that in a link that we share tomorrow. We'll ask you to upload photos and share with us the process for you there on the GAIA Journey website. So we will continue to stay connected. If you would like to share your drawings and any insights that you have, please continue to share them with us at #GAIA Journey. And you can find more information, continued resources on GaiaJourney.org. It has been such a joy and a great connection to be with all of us together today. And we have been together as a community here today, and then we will continue to draw in with the Spanish and Portuguese language tracks and another session of our journey today and other languages as we go forward throughout the week. So thank you all for your contributions, to the incredible holding team who has been making this possible, and thank you to everybody who continues to move us forward. So we'll see you again soon, and we'll see you in the interwebs in the in-between time. So we can all unmute and say goodbye.